What's up, and welcome to Brando's World of X Games. I'm so excited for our next guest to join. Not only is he one of the true legends of BMX, he's one of the greatest of all time at X Games, and he's also the voice of BMX. We now welcome to the show, Scotty Cranmer. Scotty, welcome, my brother.
Great to see you, Brando. It's been way too long.
I know. I was just talking about it with other people. Like, at this point in the year, you and I probably would have already seen each other a couple of times, man. I miss it. I miss your musk. I miss your aura. I just miss being in the booth around you, man.
It's so crazy because, like you're saying, we already would have done so much, and there's so many things that we are missing from this. There is so many things, but at the same time, it's really giving us the opportunity to appreciate those things that we are missing, so that when we get to do them again, it's going to be amazing. So it's hopefully it's sooner than later. That's it.
So I take it these past couple months you've been home in Florida?
Yeah, been home in Florida, and it's been amazing. For being locked down and being quarantined, we've been really blessed to be down here in Florida because the weather's been amazing. The weather's been so good. It's only rained like a handful of times in the last 3 months now. Every day we've been out and about just enjoying it, which is great because we can go and do our own thing. We can go ride our bikes, me and my wife, just us. And it's been really cool.
Now, you and I were texting before this thing started, before the show, just about how good you've been feeling and how many miles you've logged on your bike in the last year. And just we can get into the story in just a little bit, but I'd just love an update just kind of on you personally and where you're at and how you're feeling.
Yeah, so we're just past 3.5 years since my accident. And I remember thinking right after my accident, what the future is going to be, how everything was going to look. And to be honest with you, I feel like I'm so much further than I thought I was going to be after the accident, because now I'm walking around with so much confidence on my feet. I feel so great. I've been riding my bike a ton, and physically I am the best I've been since the accident, hands down. I feel strong. I feel confident, and that's huge. Feeling confidence, because everything I did, for the past 3.5 years, I had zero confidence in. Walking around, no confidence. Just being around in public, around other people, and feeling like a normal person, no confidence in that either. And now I'm just I feel like I'm hitting a new stride, and it feels amazing. It really does.
I think at the beginning of this pandemic, we talked about, oh my God, what's this world going to look like? Is it going to be some post-apocalypse situation? And everybody was rioting the streets and trying to steal toilet paper. And we were what does this new world look like? The one thing that I could bank on throughout this pandemic was, okay, I may never get to buy toilet paper again. I did not anticipate the next thing being, I may never be able to buy a bike again. Dude, it's insane how bicycles became the new toilet paper in this global pandemic. I know your family owns a bike shop. What's the inventory been like the last couple of months?
It's been hard to get bikes for sure. The inventory is getting very low. And it's, we're really blessed to be in that situation. The fact that we are selling so many bikes and we are bringing in so many bikes in on repair, we're trying to get our hands on more bikes, and every bike shop around the country, possibly around the world, is in the same situation as this. Our shop has been so busy. It's blown my mind. I've been down here in Florida. I've been speaking with my parents every single day about it, and I'm shocked every single day of what they've been dealing with. So the way it works, though, having a bike shop open during all this, we did it as safe as possible. We have nobody coming into our store. We have a setup out in the parking lot. So people drive up with their car. We go out there. We meet you with a mask. We grab the bike. We sanitize the bike. We bring it in. And if people want to buy bikes, they would go on our web store, and then they would pick out a bike. We would have the bike built up for them, in their size and everything. Bring it out, let them test ride it. If they like it, they purchase a bike. And if they don't like it, then we, try to see if they want a different one, and we go from there. But it's been interesting to try to figure it all out, but it's mind-blowing to realize that how many bikes are being ridden right now. Just in my neighborhood alone, just seeing the amount of people that are riding on a daily basis, it's amazing. It feels great.
Well, you've got 9 X Games medals, 3 gold, 3 silver, and 3 bronze. Is that right? I want to make sure
that is correct.
we did our research correctly. So And just an unbelievable X Games career. You brought it up a little earlier. I wanted to get to it in the show at some point, and I thought maybe no better time than now since you opened the door for it. But certainly one of the most accomplished competitive BMX careers we've ever seen. And that competitive career just unfortunately cut short just a few years ago because of this accident. For so many of the fans watching this who might not be familiar with your story, what happened to you that fateful day in 2016, was it?
2016, yeah, it was October 12th, 2016. I was in Las Vegas. I just got there to ride. There was a BMX dirt event that Monster was throwing, and when I got there, my YouTube channel was booming at the time. It was really busy, and we were cranking out 7 videos a week nonstop. And we went and we filmed a YouTube video out there, and we just rode around, me, Big Boy, and my friend Ronnie. And while we were riding around, we got a couple tricks, and we were on the last trick of the day. And I did this tail up drop into this bank, into like a concrete ditch. I landed the trick, and when I was riding away, there was like a bush in the way. And I guess I just tried to pick up the front wheel and ride through the bush, but my front wheel dropped. And then when it dropped into a hole I had no idea about was there, and I just went face first. I ended up breaking my neck, so I have a spinal cord injury. My C3, C4, there was surgery done. You see that little scar that's right there. And also my 6 and 7 were fused in the back. But I also hit my head. Thankfully, I was wearing a helmet. I ended up having 3 brain bleeds, so they removed my forehead. Pretty crazy. So I'll try to show you guys a little bit right here, but like you can see there's like a little bit of a bump that's there. So that is part of the hardware that's holding my forehead on. You wouldn't really be able to tell though after all this time. It's crazy to see how like scars been covered up, and for a while I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't move anything from my neck down, and then I started moving my hand a little bit, just like my wrist, and then I moved my legs, and that was only on the left side. And then like eventually, like I remember just sitting there wishing that I can get my right hand to move, and staring at my hand one day while I was laying in the hospital bed, and just like I swear to you, I was convinced it was like Jedi mind control, because I told myself I was going to move my right hand, and I picked my arm up, and it lifted up, and it dropped back down, and like just little things like that were happening. And it's so crazy to see, because I had so much empathy for the guys in our sports, and I mean just anybody in general, for having a spinal cord injury, breaking their neck, and losing the ability to move. So when it happened to me, and I woke up and I realized that my worst nightmare came true, like it was a tough situation, but there was something about it that when I was there, I was like, okay, we'll get through this. Like in a way, like something told me it was going to be okay. I don't know. I don't know what it was. I really don't. But and just looking at it now, like I'm able to move everything. Like I might not be able to move my right side that great. Like you can see, I can move my hand on my left pretty good, but on this side, it's just tightened up, and that works the whole way down. But for 3.5 years later, and being in a wheelchair, and having no forehead for a little while, and to be in my current situation, honestly, I am so grateful, and I'm very proud at the same time.
Yeah, and it's an amazing journey, and we're all just so proud of all that you've accomplished. It's insane in such a short amount of time, and you're not being hyperbolic about missing a portion of your forehead. Go to Scotty's Instagram, go to his YouTube channels. You documented it all. You literally were missing a portion of your head. It was so wild.
That was scary. That was a tough one to wake up on, because I'll tell you the situation of like when I found out too. Like I was laying in the hospital bed, and I couldn't move anything at the time, and people were coming in and visiting me all the time. And my cousin came in, and he's sitting next to me, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to see the part of your forehead that's missing?" And I thought for sure that they just removed like a portion that was about that big, just so the pressure could be relieved. And I told him no. I was like, no, I don't care. And then he's like, you sure? And I was like, yeah, I don't care. And then he took a picture anyway and showed me. And the picture was from the side, and there's a complete indentation from here to there, just missing. And my skin goes like against my brain, like, and he showed me the picture, and my heart just dropped. Because the thing is, I'm stuck. I'm not looking at any mirrors. I was wearing a helmet, all the time. I didn't understand the situation, and once I figured out the situation, that was scary. And then I had to go through all this process of getting a fake forehead put in. And when I say fake forehead, they were actually going to take the forehead piece because they cut it out. They put it in like a frozen situation to save it, but they ended up going with a plastic piece that they 3D printed off of a CT scan, which is crazy to me, but that's what I have now. I have a plastic forehead.
You were, as you said, very active with your YouTube channel pre-injury. You have one of the most active YouTube channels in our community, right? I think you have over 1 million subscribers, something like that. I mean, you've always had wild numbers with that. When the injury happens and you're going through all of this and basically living in a hospital room and you're just thinking life or death at that standpoint, when did it become apparent, hey, maybe we do need to document this? Maybe this does need to be filmed as part of the journey?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I wish I would have filmed more. At the time, I was so embarrassed and not proud of my situation that I didn't want anybody to see it. And it's hard for me to even admit that now, but it's a tough thing when you have to almost surrender your independence. And for my friends and my family, they would come in, like, especially Big Boy. Big Boy was the one, responsible for documenting pretty much everything after that. He would just come in, he would film a little bit. When I was at the hospital, he'd come in almost, every other day, sometimes every day, which was like an hour and a half drive. And all my friends would come in and visit me as well. But I wish I would have done more because I didn't realize how much that my recovery would have helped people along the way. Like there's so many times where I'll get messages or meet people that with similar situations to mine, and that they wanted somebody to relate to, but they didn't have anybody, and until they found my YouTube channel. And I wish I would have done more. I wish I would have documented it, but at the time, like you were saying, it was a life or death situation. I wasn't worried about my YouTube channel, and I wasn't worried about thinking about, oh man, this would be great content. No, that's the last thing that was on my mind. So there is regret there, but we did still film a lot of it. We definitely did. And I'm glad that we did. I really am.
Well, I had asked fans before this interview, I posted on Instagram that you'd be coming on today's show. We'd be recording if they had any questions. And of course, you brought up Big Boy. And we actually had a question come in from Aaron Davies. And he asks, how did you and Big Boy first meet?
This is a pretty funny story. So we were at my parents' skate park, the Incline Club. It was probably 2014, I'd say. And I see this big kid. He's huge, and he does a flare. And it takes control. It takes skill to do a flare. I've never seen this guy before. And he just shows up and he does a flare, and I'm pretty shocked. And I had no idea who he was, but I knew right away, like, he was somebody that kind of like was meshing with the rest of the locals because he just had a loud mouth, and he had like this confidence of being around everybody. And I talked to him a little bit, just kind of, here and there. Then he would show up at my skate park. He would start hanging out with my little brother a little bit, but while he was there. And then like he would get used to me, and he started talking a lot of trash to me. He would just yell this stuff, and he was just a lot of mean things, and I was sick and tired of this guy. I really was. So I remember he started getting close to my little brother. A few months go by, and then he finally, like, I hit the boiling point with him. I called him outside, and I told him, I was like, hey man, listen, you don't need to try hard by belittling people or bullying people. I was like, people will like you. I was like, for who you are, because he did show glimpses of a good person. Like, it's just, but he felt like he had to like show off in a way to try to get attention or to be accepted. And then after that, he just said, okay. And that was it. Then he was cool. Then he was hanging out with my little brother all the time. And my little brother finally got to that age, because me and my little brother are 10 years apart. So he finally got to that age where, we could relate to each other while we were riding. And there was like a package deal. Those two came together. And then the more I spent with them riding, the more, our friendship developed. And that's kind of how it all came together, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I'm sure fans of yours and fans of BMX certainly know Big Boy and kind of his spot within the industry. I was first introduced to him when he was coming around with you a lot, and he was I mean, on top of just looking like he was your best friend, he was assisting you. He was with you every step of the way when you first started with us here at X Games, particularly in the broadcast booth. And I was like, who is this guy? And I saw him riding his bike because, as you said, he's like very physically imposing. It's an apt nickname. And
Yeah.
he does strike me kind of as like an alpha type, and I could kind of see that. But to your point, you obviously had a bit of a come to Jesus with him, and that must have rung true, because it just seems like he's with you every step of the way.
He is. I mean, I'm so grateful to have him. He's such an interesting person. One of the nicest people in the world. Like, he's got such a big conscience. It's like he's always doing the right thing. And one of the things that, like, I'm so proud of him about, like, when the YouTube channel started, like, he really, like, didn't have much of a following at all. Maybe he had like 300 Instagram followers. So, like, and then if you fast forward it
You
now,
don't know more. You don't know more.
yeah, now he's got 300 plus thousand Instagram followers. And one thing that I am so proud of him about is the way, like, he handles himself around everybody, around kids, around parents. He puts on such a great expectation of what I would want him to look like for the YouTube channel. And he's a good person. He really is. And I'm glad to have him, especially down here in Florida. I've been riding with him every single day. He just bought a house, which is wild, about 2 months ago, and it's been really cool to see.
Yeah, I believe that. Did he buy a house with a pool?
He did buy a house.
Did I see you ride your bike into his pool?
You did see me ride my bike into his pool.
Was that off a dare, or just it had to get a certain number of likes? What was the story behind that?
That's exactly how it went down. We were doing this one thing, and he was trying to get likes, a certain amount of likes if he would dye his hair, and we did that. So then we did a similar challenge, and he decided to say if they got 40,000 likes, I'd jump in the pool. And of course the guys did. Got 40,000 likes. And yeah, I held my bargain. I came prepared. I had my goggles on and everything. The second I jumped in the pool, everything's off. Because like I can swim now, and it was hard for me to learn how to swim again, because cold water affects my body really bad. Anything below 70 degrees. That's why I'm down here in Florida in general, because it just cold temperatures I'm not good with. Makes my body lock up. First thing that happens, my fingers curl in, and then my arm locks up into a 90 degree, and then it goes down to my legs. So when I first started swimming again, I was terrified. I was like, I was never a great swimmer, but when you throw in this accident into the situation, then that's really scary. So when I bought a house with a pool, first time I ever had a pool, took me a while to figure out the confidence. I started with a life jacket, trying to get the motion there, and now I can swim pretty good at this point. Like, I can go back and forth in the pool, no problem. I have full confidence in my ability now.
You brought up your younger brother, and for those who don't know, Scotty Cranmer, who's turning into a really accomplished BMX rider in his own right. You guys are 10 years apart, so I imagine it's he, as a kid growing up, right, probably in the prime of your career, man, he must have absolutely idolized you. What was that relationship like, being that far apart in age growing up?
It's interesting, because like I literally was just thinking about it 2 days ago, because like my older brother he's about 7-8 years older than me, and I felt like that was a really big gap growing up. And with my younger brother, that's 10 years. That's a big difference. So it's what's crazy about Maddie, and with BMX, it's like he's been around the best parts of BMX his whole life. Like, everything that he's remembered, pretty much when he was 3 years old, our indoor skate park opened. Like, just think about that. Like, he grew into that lifestyle. It's not. He started on BMX kind of late. He preferred, being on like a scooter most of the time when he was a little kid. He started BMX racing as well. But for my little brother being that young, like my little brother, kind of turning into a BMX rider or into like an extreme sports fan, like that was just natural, and he was obsessed with it. X Games, he was going to X Games pretty much since the beginning. He was at my first X Games in 2003. So he was only 6 years old. So, and he loved it. He loved every bit of it. He's seeing everybody. Like, he was a huge Travis Pastrana fan and stuff. So it's pretty wild to think, but our relationship now it's amazing. Being both, I'm 33, my little brother, he's going to be 23 next month. And his style of BMX is so much different than mine too. That's one thing that, like, I think is really cool, because he didn't follow exactly in my footsteps. He's his own person. And like right now, he's training for an Ironman. That's his new goal right now. Yeah, he's running every day. He's riding a bike. He's trying to swim, but in New Jersey, there's no pools open. Like, he wanted to get like a membership.
Where do you do the swim training in Jersey? Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy. My dad, he ended up just getting one of those hot tubs that like have the circulating water.
Yeah, so
yeah. So they're setting that up right now. So next week, Maddie's gonna be he's going to be in the swim portion of his Ironman. So it's cool. He's trying to get it done by like November.
He's in for a rude awakening when he realizes once he actually hits the swim portion of the triathlon that he's actually moving. He's actually going a distance, and he's not just staying in one spot. Hopefully that doesn't jam him up.
Because he tried, Brandon. He was so desperate into trying to get the swim thing going. And he tried to get a small pool, like a 3-foot deep pool that was like 12 foot. And tried to fill it up in his basement, and then he was going to put like a harness on himself to hold him in place. Told him it wasn't going to work, but like he literally tried it, brought it in there, started filling it up, and he's like, "Yeah, this isn't going to work."
Yeah, your parents are like, "Now we have to get flood insurance." You brought up that first X Games, 03, LA. I want to hear about the event, but before, I want to hear about finding out the invite to your first X Games. What was that like?
It was a wild year in general, because I went from 0 to 100 instantly. I was some kid who idolized these pro riders. I knew I was skilled on a bike. Don't get me wrong. Like, I knew the stuff I was capable of was pretty serious, but I never saw myself at a pro level. And that year, I entered my first pro competition. I qualified first in front of all the big guys, which was crazy. That literally just catapulted me into the sport. But to get to X Games was a whole different story, because that's the big show. That's our huge event. That's like the pinnacle. So when I got my invite, and I was like, all right, this is happening. I show up there and I see this amazing course, and it feels so much bigger than the rest of those other competitions I was in that year, because we're talking ESPN. This is serious. So I remember being there, being nervous as heck because of the event, because I knew I was at X Games, because I knew that there was medals at stake. And I got in there. I didn't really think my run through. I kind of got stuck. And in practice, I did a Fupnu on this big wall. It was a 6-foot quarter pipe to a 10-foot wall. I got onto it. I slipped the sprocket. I fell back, jumped off of it, survived it, rolled onto my back. I was like, whew, all right, we're good. And then I saw this silhouette just hit me in the face, and my bike hit me in the face. I broke my nose. So I rode the competition with my eyes swollen shut, couldn't breathe out of my nose. And I got 19th place. So definitely not the dream situation of my first X Games, but it was my first X Games. And what's crazy about that, my second X Games too, I ended up missing because I broke my leg. I couldn't qualify.
Right. Yeah, in 04, I remember that. And then, but that's what I want to get at, is you say 19th place, welcome to X Games. But then your next one, when you actually could compete, I believe you got a silver medal. So then it was like
behind Dave Mirra as well.
Well, a lot of people got silver medals behind Dave Mirra, but I mean, it became podium city for you. How did that that transfer come from I think I'm good enough to ride with these guys? Oh, I can actually compete on the same course as these guys, to I'm actually, when it comes contest time, I'm as good, if not better, event in, event out. When did that light switch flip on for you?
I felt like it's always been there for me, that's how I got to where I am, for sure. There's certain athletes out there, all these guys that are on the top of the podium year in, year out, they all have this special trait to them where once the pressure is put on, that pressure of everybody watching you, that's when they come alive. That's when they're able to make their big, moments. And I had that ability So that was something I always had. And I feel like it's been that way ever since I was a little kid. Like, it's crazy to say, like, nobody really knows this one, but like when I was 9 years old, I did a halftime show. Well, we were supposed to do a halftime show, but things got weird. I guess it was the last year that Michael Jordan was a Bull, and I remember being at the Georgia Dome. It was, the one in Atlanta, and so it was the football stadium, I guess, or I guess it was the
Right.
Olympic
They
Stadium.
were waiting for the Hawks were waiting for their new arena to be built or renovated, I think, right? So they were
Yeah.
playing in that massive stadium. Yeah.
So I did a show in that stadium when I was 9 years old, and like,
Whoa.
yeah, I wasn't scared though. Like I felt like that's where I belonged in like, like I felt like I was like, man, I just really loved like having that pressure of people watching me and doing tricks. So like, it's crazy. Like that started out pretty early for me, but like when that continued on to the X Games placings, like X Games was the biggest event. Like, I mean, it's hard for me to fully explain this, but like I was saying earlier, like I went from just a 16-year-old kid to having a career as a professional rider, and there's no coaching through that. There's no explanation of how that's going to play out or how you should make that happen. And I went through a lot of different emotions because of having the pressure, having anxiety. I had serious anxiety, but I knew that X Games was that moment that I wanted to, no matter how scary it was or how much I had to work for it, that's when I wanted to step up and I wanted to put on, the best Scotty Cranmer that anybody would see. So
And how about that first X Games gold medal a year later in
that was
'06 in
crazy.
LA?
That was a wild one. I remember being there and loving the course, thinking like this is perfect for me. And um, it's crazy to say, but I ended up winning the gold medal on my first run. So I technically had a victory run for my X Games gold, but I wasn't proud of my first run. I messed up. I had a crash, and I was like, all right, I'm landing everything right now. Like I wanted to make sure that I deserved that gold medal. So I stepped it up and I pulled my whole run, So that moment though, I remember afterwards just feeling like I was like, damn, like my life's complete. Like there is no moment right there that's ever going to compare, because I held that on such a high level of kind of achieving anything in my life was going to be that gold medal. And once I got that one, I was on cruise control of just happiness for a while. And then like the next year came around, I'm like, I got to keep this gold medal. I got to figure out a way to do this. So, and of course, Daniel Durs, he wanted it just as bad as I did. And I ended up getting silver in 2007, but I was back on that podium, which was crazy. I at least wanted to get back on that podium. I need to get another medal. Like that was crucial to me.
Well, we got some other fan questions coming in. Joey Pedroza asked, I looked up to you when I first got into BMX. Who did you look up to when you first started riding?
All right, so first started, that's an interesting one, because I've been riding for so long. I started racing when I was 8 years old. Um, I'm gonna go off of my first freestyle BMX people that I looked up to, and I'm gonna go pro wise. And clearly, Dave Mir is always gonna be that guy. He's always gonna be there. Guys like Matt Hoffman, the big names in our sport. Those were the superheroes of our sport. Then you have guys that were under the radar. They were more underground, but they were still popular pros like Alistair Witten, John Heaton. So those were the guys that kind of pushed me as a rider. And I'll be honest with you, after the 2002 X Games, or I think it was 2001 when Bruce Chrisman won the gold, I remember watching that run, and I had the same handlebars as Bruce Chrisman. I had these they were the Haro Slim bars, and I took my grip and I moved it all the way down the bar, because that's how Bruce Chrisman would ride. And I literally left my living room and switched my grip like that, because he inspired me that much. So there's so many riders out there that inspired me. And I think that's why my riding was so diverse, where I could ride everything, because I wanted to be like so many different riders out there. I wanted to learn their tricks. I wanted to set goals for myself like that. So,
wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And how about for the transition, once obviously the injury happens, trying to figure out what's next for you, the conversation of you getting involved on the broadcast side. Like, how did that come to be? And follow up, did you know you were going to be as good at this as you are at riding a BMX bike? Because you're incredible at doing this.
Well, thanks, Brando. I appreciate it. Like it's been such a great transition for me because I needed to be involved. I couldn't not go to X Games, and like I wanted to feel like I was still a part of X Games. I wanted to feel like I belonged there, like I had a purpose there in a way. Um, did I know I was going to excel the way I have? Like, I hoped I would, I feel like I was good at talking about BMX. I mean, like there's nothing I know better than BMX. It's been my whole life. It's like, it's the easiest topic for me to talk about. So like when I got the first opportunity though, like I remember sitting down in the broadcast booth, you know exactly the situation where we have to do a run through, like a practice. And I remember sitting down and I was super nervous because now I got the headset on. Now I got the microphone. Now I can hear myself, and I'm sitting next to Jimmy, and we did a run through. They're like, all right, let's pretend that the next drop in is going to be is going to be like the proper run. So Jimmy did the intro for him. He's like, "Here comes DJ Ellis," and it was 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was the first rider that was on the deck for practice. So he just does a straight jump, another straight jump, and then on the third straight jump, I'm like, I felt like I had to announce this because, like, all right, this is a practice, so to say. So I was like, man, TJ looks really determined out there. And I'm like, I just invented a word, like determined. Like,
ooh, I'm gonna take that one. I like that, determined.
And I just stopped. I was like, listen, I'm sorry. I swear it won't happen again. And then the next competition I had, of course, the real event was BMX Street, and that's the one I was the most nervous about because there are so many technical moves in that. You have guys like Garrett Reynolds that are doing all these tricks to fakie, switch pegs, switch 180s, everything. I felt like if I was going to mess up, that was going to be the one. And
the comment section would let you know if you screwed up.
That's the thing.
They will let you know.
I didn't want that. I did not want that at all. And I feel like I passed with flying colors in that one. Like I didn't mess up. I didn't mess up any tricks. Didn't mess up anybody's names. And thankfully, man, that was terrifying. So, but I love it. I'm so happy doing it, and I'm gonna try to keep the job going as long as possible.
No, I think it's well, I'm not making any decisions or writing any checks, but you're as good as it gets, man. I don't know where else you would go, man.
Thanks, Brando.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I always enjoy. Obviously, I call mostly skate, but for certain events, I will call BMX with you. And I always admit, I'm not a BMX guy per se, but like it makes my job 1,000 times easier when I'm in the booth with you because I know I could just set you up and just kind of.
Well, thanks, Brando.
Thanks, Brando. Hey, I got one more fan question that I want to get to. This one is from Olivia Wilson, who asks, "Have you baked any bread during this quarantine?" That seems to be a very popular thing, is to bake a nice sourdough or banana bread. Have you done any baking this quarantine?
Not me, but my wife has. She's the baker. Yeah, she did like a banana nut bread. Is that what it was? I think that's what it was. It's really good though. She did a great job. So I haven't been baking it, but I have been eating it. So
you've been consuming. So Olivia, he has not made, but he has eaten.
Yeah.
Man, well, we appreciate the time. Before we let you go, though, it is the 25th anniversary of X Games. Crazy to think.
Wow.
So we're asking everybody who comes on the show, what's your favorite X Games memory? Whether it's your own, I know we went down memory lane on some of your medals or your first performance, or maybe it was somebody that you watched or an event that just has stuck with you. But 25 years of X Games, what's that one moment that you cling to?
I was in the arena, in the stands in Philadelphia when Matt Hoffman did the no-handed 900. And that moment right there for me is always going to be probably the biggest BMX moment ever for X Games because it's Matt Hoffman, and it was a trick that people deemed impossible pretty much. And what's wild about that, like all these years later, just last year at X Games, it was like, probably like a Tuesday. I was going to go to the event for the first time. And I was killing time in the hotel lobby, and I ended up watching that clip, watching that full run out right there with Dave and with Matt Hoffman, and I was blown away. And I walk into BMX Dirt, and there's one person sitting in the stands by himself, just looking at the dirt jumps, and it's Matt Hoffman. So I walk up to Matt, and I was like, Matt, I just watched the no-handed 900, and I got to sit down with him and talk to him about that whole day from his perspective. And I was mind blown. I was like, Matt, like, why did you do, like, you did a no-handed 900, but you did the biggest no-handed 900 that you possibly could. Like, your hands were fully extended out. And he's like, I had to. He goes, I spun too fast, and I knew I had to open up my hands to get the 900 to slow down. So I just couldn't believe it. That's always going to go down as like one of my favorite conversations I've ever had, just because of the way I witnessed it the first time when I was just a kid in the audience watching it as such a fan. And I got to go back that many years later and be the fan again in front of the man himself. So that's going to be my moment.
It's wild to think about that you're watching that in Philly, which was just a drive for you probably back when growing up in Jersey. And then just within 2 years being at X Games competing yourself, that is crazy to me.
Blows my mind still thinking about it. I just don't know how everything moved that fast. I really don't, but it's been a wild ride, and I'm really grateful for it.
And Matt Hoffman, sidebar, it's amazing to me. You're talking about a true GOAT, just absolutely fearless on a bike. So many firsts, so many incredible legendary moments. And it's rad that he's still involved with BMX and certainly X Games and sport orging, whether it's judging. But it's like you'll see him out, if we're at an outdoor event, brooming water off of a ramp. And he's, like you said, he's out in the dirt kind of like shaping. And like, it's like, dude, you're Matt Hoffman. What are you doing? But he loves it so much that he can't not have his fingerprints on things. It's amazing. I'm
so grateful for Matt's presence in BMX. And, like just this last year, our BMX, they do the Nora Cups, and I hosted it, and I got to present the Legend Award to Matt Hoffman. And that in itself, like just seeing everybody in that room, everybody that was such hardcore BMX rider, just freak out when they said Matt's name, and Matt had no idea he was going to get the award. And he went up there, and he was just so grateful. He was just so proud to be in that moment. And man, I'm like I said, I'm just so happy he's still so heavily involved in BMX, because he's our guy. He's the one that made the rules. He's the one that broke the rules. He's the greatest of all time. He really is.
Oh, well said, man. Well, we really appreciate it, Scotty. And I'm looking forward to getting back to normal, or at least the new normal, because that would mean you and I are out at an event somewhere, man. So I wish you all the best, and we'll keep watching you on your YouTube channel. And we thank you so much for spending some time with us, brother.
Thank you, Brando. It's been an honor.
All right. Thanks, Scotty. Take care.